Hello, everyone. It is a special bonus episode of We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. I'm Alicia J with Ashley Nicole Moss. And today we are bringing you a story that I wish we didn't have to bring you because it is absolutely terrible. And it is on a graduation speech by Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker that has been making the rounds on social media. In the 20-minute commencement speech, addressed the uh, graduates. Literally, they're graduating from college, of Benedictine College. And it was a 20-minute address where he spoke out against a number of topics, including making an apparent reference to Pride Month by calling out dangerous gender ideologies and speaking about the diabolic lies that have been told to women about being in the workforce. Absolutely ridiculous. He told the women in the audience that their accomplishments in the home are more valuable than any academic or professional goals that they may have. And run the clip. We're going to see a little bit of this.
For the ladies present today, congratulations on an amazing accomplishment. You should be proud of all that you have achieved to this point in your young lives. I want to speak directly to you briefly because I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you are sitting here now, about to cross this stage, and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother. I'm on this stage today and able to be the man I am because I have a wife who leans into her vocation. Isabel's dream of having a career might not have come true, but if you asked her today if she has any regrets on her decision, she would laugh out loud without hesitation and say, heck no.
Somebody check on Isabel, please. Blink twice. We need to know you're okay because, wow. He also went on to quote Taylor Swift's song Bejeweled, but referred to her as my teammate's girlfriend rather than the successful billionaire musician and businesswoman that we know she is.
Mm-hmm.
The NFL has since responded to the commencement speech with Jonathan Bean, I believe. I hope I don't get his name wrong, but he's the senior vice president and chief diversity and inclusion officer at the NFL. And he said Harrison Butker gave a speech in his personal capacity. His views are not those of the NFL as an organization. The NFL is steadfast in our commitment to inclusion, which only makes our league stronger. And then GLAAD also has issued a statement calling the speech a clear miss and woefully out of step with Americans about pride, LGBTQ people, and women. So it's also important to note that the Chiefs have yet to issue a statement and have declined to comment about the speech. So Ashley, what are your thoughts on this? You know, you already obviously know my thoughts because I'm going to say horrific speech.
So look, the university in which he gave this speech is a Catholic liberal arts university. So, you know, religious views are very different from, you know, modern liberal views right now. And, you know, that's fine. You know, I want to make it very clear that nobody is telling anybody what to think, how to feel. Obviously, if you grow up in a more religious household, your views will be different from someone who grew up, you know, not in a religious household. If you grew up in more of a white wing home or environment, your views will be different from someone who's more liberal in their views. You know, my views probably are different than somebody who grew up in Arkansas, for example. I'm from New York City. It's a very different experience. But with that said, I think it's also important to note that just because those are your views, that those views aren't good for the masses. And I think that's where people tend to miss the mark. Nobody's saying we all have to think the same, believe the same things, you know, embrace the same things. But it's very important to know that just because it works for you doesn't mean it's going to work for me. And there are a lot of women in this world, we'll talk about in this country specifically, who can't have children, who don't want children, who don't want to be a wife, who maybe have been married, been divorced, and don't want to go through it again. And I think it's important to realize there are so many different types of women in this country that it does not put you, there's no hierarchy of women based on how many children they have, how long they've been married. Like, that doesn't make you more valuable than a woman who either has not gotten to that point in her life yet, chooses not to have those experiences and not to live that life, maybe has already done it and doesn't want to do it again, maybe chose adoption, maybe chose surrogacy, maybe chose a different path to having children, maybe chose to just be an auntie and love on nieces and nephews, and those are her babies. Like, there are so many different types of ways to have a family, to be a partner, to be a successful woman. And I think for me, the thing that is frustrating is when there are men, and women too, but I think it's more so along the lines of men speaking for women as a whole and what defines a woman. And I don't think that women have ever been a species, a creature of simplicity. Like, we're so multidimensional. There's so many different ways to be a woman. There's so many experiences as a woman. And I think it's very ignorant and dangerous to present one viewpoint as that is the top tier woman, and that every other woman in the world, or specifically talking about in this country, should go ahead and try to be that kind of woman because that's the only woman that's acceptable. And that's where it gets dangerous. And I think that's why a lot of people have an issue with what he said. It's not his views, it's him kind of hierarchying this whole, because she's a homemaker and a mother and a wife, God bless, she's the pinnacle of success, and she's the pinnacle of X, Y, and Z. And that's where it gets unfair.
Yeah, I mean, there's unfair parts about the whole thing. Number one, it is clear that Benedictine College, it's very hard to say, but it's very clear that that college knew who they were picking to do this commencement speech.
Yes.
So a lot of this lies on them too, right? They knew that he was going to come out saying all of these things, and they probably invited it, to be honest, because a lot of people in that room did a standing ovation when he was done. However, I feel bad, and I'm sending out love to all the people in that room that did not identify with those words, that did not identify with those ideals, and didn't deserve to go to college for however many years they went to get their degree and to get ready to go out into this world. They didn't do all that to hear those words in that room that day. I thought that was very unfair. Also, I love stay-at-home moms. Like, I love people who are at home and they want to be there and they choose to be there. And I think that is amazing. Like you said, pick exactly what you want to do. Like, please.
Right.
But also he's speaking from a place of privilege, because there are a lot of people who can't stay at home. They simply cannot do that. They may want to, but they don't have to. So there was that point as well. But what I really want to say is that at the end of the day, I really need, number one, I need the Chiefs to say something about this. Okay. They need to make some statement about it so that we know that they're not aligned with these words that he's saying. And if they are, stand on business and do that too, right? But I definitely think the Chiefs need to say something about this. I think the college obviously is okay with what's happening because they still have the commencement speech up there. It has like almost 500,000 views on it. They've turned the comments off. I'd like them to also stand on business about that too. If you're going to keep it up, keep them comments up. But I just want to say overall that, yes, there is, free speech. You should feel how you feel, express, I guess, what you want to. But we know that in this league, there have been people who have also used free speech and they have been blackballed because of it. We know that.
Well, absolutely. I mean, listen, I think that the NFL as a whole has disassociated themselves from the statements. To your point, don't know if Kansas City is going to do that. They haven't done it yet. I think there's a fine line between, again, what he said was not derogatory. It wasn't like he was, calling names, calling people out of their names. Those are his views, which, again, want to make very clear is 100% his prerogative. But it's the sentiment behind how he said it. My mom has a saying she used to tell me all the time as I was growing up. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And no one has a problem with, or people do have a problem maybe with what he said. But at the end of the day, like you said, freedom of speech, like, you're entitled to your beliefs, and I'm not going to go ahead and push my beliefs on you. But there's a difference between having your beliefs and believing your beliefs are superior, and anybody who does not fall in that category is inferior to whoever it is or whatever it is you're referring to. And I think that's what rubbed women the wrong way, because it was uplifting a very specific type of woman, and by byproduct downgrading a woman or women who may not live or want to live that life. For him to say, the most important thing you'll ever do is not graduate from university, which not everybody does. It's going to be a mother. It's going to be being a mother and being, a caregiver and being a wife. And if I was in that audience, I mean, granted, that's not a school that I personally would go to, but even if it was a school that I did go to, and, I decided, yeah, I went to a Catholic school, but, this may not be the lifestyle that I want to live, I would be offended by that, because why is it that that's the hierarchy and that's the pinnacle and that's the, image of success and desire, and me graduating college is not something that I should revel in and be and happy about. It's how he said it, not what he said, that I think is where people are being rubbed the wrong way.
Yeah, and it's important to note too, he did not just talk about women. He
Mhm.
talked about the LGBTQ plus
Mhm.
community. He talked about fathers. I don't know what his exact words were, but
Mhm.
he said something about disenfranchised fathers, something along those lines, and how they contributed to violence in our society. I mean, he was really degrading a lot of people, and not only just speaking about like his ideals, but he was definitely, in the way that he was saying it, preaching to everyone about these things as well.
Which to
He
me is the
talked
problem.
yeah, he talked about Biden, he talked about
Mhm.
abortion, he talked about many things in there that wasn't just like, this is what I believe. It was like, we should all be believing this
Listen,
too.
and that's exactly it right there. I think that if this were just let's say it was a podcast and he was giving an interview and he was sharing his viewpoints on X, Y, and Z, and you and I didn't agree with them, but it's not like he was saying this is the way to be and this is the only acceptable way to be. We'd have our opinions and say, well, I don't agree with that, but like whatever, different strokes for different folks kind of thing. But it's because of what you just said. It's not only you sharing your beliefs, but then trying to in so many ways imply that your beliefs are superior, and anyone who does not fall under that umbrella is inferior to the person who does fall within that realm of what's acceptable. And I think that that's such a dangerous way of existing, because like I said, there's so many different lives that are appropriate for so many different types of people. We all have, like in my friend group, for example, I have friends who are having kids and gotten married, and I have friends who've had babies before getting married. I have friends who stopped, pursuing their college degrees because they became mothers and wives, and that's all they want to do. And then there's, me in the friend group who's not married, has no kids, is very single, dating, my career is my baby, and that's okay. And I don't think that anybody should be, especially women, because I feel like there's already unfair standards put on women to begin with in society that men don't have to deal with. When a man works too hard and he's career driven, he's a boss and he's about his paper and all that stuff. When a woman does it, she's undesirable. She's the bitch word. She's cold. She's this, she's that. She's too much like a man, not enough like a woman. And it's already hard being a woman in this world, that we don't need people, especially men, who have no idea what it's like to be a woman in today's world, have no idea what it's like to have children, have no idea what it's like to be a wife and have to think about so many different people, and including with yourself, having to, manage home life and work life, and choosing between those constantly 24 hours a day. They have no idea what any of those things are like. They have no idea what abortion is like or having to make that decision. They don't know any of it. So I personally would like to tell men to stop speaking on women's issues and mind their business. That's where I stand on it.
Yeah, across the board. Not just him,
Like,
all y'all,
yeah.
any of y'all that want to say that, right? I think it's also very interesting, Ashley, and I don't know if you know this, that his mom is a very career-driven
Yes.
woman. Yeah,
She's like
she's
a
actually
pharmacist, right?
yeah, I think she's a physicist,
Okay, a
maybe.
physicist.
I
Okay.
I'm
Right.
not really
Come
sure,
on.
but I know she's super well respected in her field, And so
Mhm.
for him to make these
Mhm.
comments, that's even more perplexing because your mom is out there, an amazing businesswoman.
Being the
She's
exact polar opposite of what
yeah,
you're telling women is the acceptable way to be, which is crazy, crazy.
yeah,
When I heard that, I was like, "Oh, so you just all types of, like, all over the place. Got it."
yeah.
Like, heard it.
Yeah, definitely. And there is a petition going around to,
Oh,
oust him. And I think it's at 142,000 signatures and climbing as we speak. I really, honestly, I don't know the particulars on a petition like that. I don't think you can really do that. I mean, that would be up to the teams and the NFL,
mhm.
obviously. But there's a lot of people, and I hope that the Kansas City Chiefs are looking at that and listening.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting too because, I mean, you have teammates of his who are with women who are exactly the opposite of what he's saying acceptable. You have Taylor Swift, 34 years old, never married, has no children, is a freaking billionaire. Travis Kelce's with her. You have Patrick Mahomes' wife, who, yes, is a wife and a mother, but she also is a businesswoman. She is part owner or full owner of a soccer team. So, like, it's just crazy to me that not only do you have a woman who's a direct contrast to everything you're talking about in your family, like she birthed you, she brought you into the world, you also have teammates who are dating or married to women who either are both mothers and wives and accomplished or very single, no children, like, and make a boatload of money. So I'm just very confused on, like, where, like, how that, like, I wonder when he walks into that locker room, like, come training camp, if he's just gonna be like, probably shouldn't have said that. I probably should keep that to myself, you
Well,
know?
I hope there's some people that make him know that he shouldn't have said that. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna say anything else. I also want to note too, this week, polar opposite of this, right? Mahomes made a speech at the Time 100 gala that was dedicated to women,
Yeah.
dedicated to women's sports. So by no means are his views indicative of everybody that's in the NFL or anything of that nature. But I just really hope that people kind of set him straight that need to that have a really good talking to him, if not more, just because he needs to know that what he's saying and the way that he said it, to what you were saying earlier, the way that he
Mhm.
said it um should be adjusted. Like, say what
That's
you want,
I feel
feel
like
what
that's
you
the
want to
biggest
feel,
thing.
but
Yeah. That's the
yeah.
biggest thing. I feel like he doesn't, if he came out after all of this and, like, nobody wants you to apologize for your beliefs. I've learned a very long time ago, because when I was younger, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, like, I would go to war trying to, like, make my opinion the universal opinion. And as you get older, you realize everybody lives a different life. Everybody comes from different walks of life. Everybody grew up differently. Everyone's experiences have shaped them in some way, shape, or form. And that shapes your thoughts and that shapes your viewpoints and your morals. And sometimes those things change as you get older, but if they don't, that's cool too. And that's why there's somebody for everyone, and people have their own friend groups, and, like, people listen to their own kind of music, and, everyone's life is different, and where you can find similarities is where relationships kind of intertwine. But I want him and everybody who may share his viewpoints to know that, like, you're entitled to live and view life however you want to. But there's a difference between that and then trying to inflict your viewpoints on everybody else and thinking people are less than of you because they don't see the world the same way you do. So if he came out, I wouldn't even want an apology from him. I would simply just want, like, this is what works for me in my life and my family. But by no means do I think that any woman who does not fit into that box is less than my wife, is less than my mother, or less than in my eyes. This is just what works for me. I feel like if he said that, there'd be a lot of people who'd be like, okay, I can accept that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, that's fine. I can take that.
Well, we'll see if he does say anything like that. I'm not going to sit here and hold my breath.
Are you signing the
But
petition? Did you sign it?
listen, I may or may not have signed it multiple times, but no, I I
Under
I didn't
different
sign it
names?
multiple times.
Different
I didn't
names?
sign it multiple times because that would make it invalid, so don't take that. But, I like you said, I mean, we sat here and talked about it. Definitely is something that, if you choose to believe in it, great, but just don't impart it on everybody.
Yeah.
Like,
And I think
there's
that's
just no space for that.
and I think everybody can share those sentiments. And I think that the biggest thing to take away from this emergency pod that we did is that I want people, but specifically women, to just know that you're not less than a woman because you don't have children, because you're not married, because you put your career first or your education first, and maybe, marriage and children is something that you don't even want, or maybe it's something you can't have, or whatever the reasons are that that's not for you. I just hope that women know, and even down to superficial stuff, like, you're not less than a woman because you're not as curvy, or you don't have a big butt, or you're not like a double D, or you're not this, your hair's not long. And like, there's so many different versions of women, and they're beautiful in every single way, shape, or form. That I want women to take away from this conversation, that just because one type of woman works for one person does not make you less than because you're different than that. And I think that's the most important thing to take away from this, and conversations that happen because of other things that happen like this,
Absolutely. And I would extend that to everybody that he, tried to point out, indict, or said disparaging things about. Like, you're not less than, you're exactly who you are supposed to be, and love who you are, despite what anybody else may think. You are who you are for a reason, and it's amazing who you are. So please celebrate yourself, despite, the opinions of people who really don't matter in your life.
Ooh, mic drop. On that note, listen, I can't top that, so I'm gonna just leave that be. Well done, Alicia. I wish we had a sound effect machine, a flunk flex.
I say it from experience. Trust me.
Listen, I know that's right. That's a different pod for a different day. We need more than 20 minutes for that.
You sure do.
Listen, as always, we appreciate every single one of you for tapping in, for liking, subscribing, and sharing this pod that we've launched. It's been a long time coming, but this is why, Alicia, you wanted to go ahead and do this, to have conversations like this and reach people who may not feel heard or seen in the podcast space, which is what makes this so special. So we want to go ahead and remind you to scan this QR code that we have here, and it will bring you to wherever you get your podcast. So you can go ahead and listen wherever, and make sure you're sharing with a friend, with a friend, with a friend. Until next time, thanks for hanging out with us. This has been We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. That was a bar, Alicia. You dropped that.
Oh, thanks. I've been mad about
that
this
was
all
good, y'all. That was really good.